Good afternoon to all the attendees. Uh, we have Dr. Marcus with us already joined in. We have Dr. Ravi Gupta already joined in, and we are waiting for the third panelist, Ms. Radhika Gupta, to join in. We will be starting in next 1 or 2 minutes max. Yeah, so while Radhika also comes on board, let me introduce our speakers, our panelists. As you know, the theme of this particular session is digital detox, key to sleep, relationship, and wellness. We have 3 speakers. Dr. Marcus Ranney is the first. A word about him: he is the new age Dr. Bannister, if I can use that comparison, because he is deeply into extreme physiology. He is a trained doctor himself from University College of Medical School in London, and he holds a very interesting Guinness Book of World Records in his name. He is the backward running record is his name, and he has led expeditions to Everest, to Antarctica, and he has been sort of challenging his body, like I said, Dr. Bannister. Luckily for India, he is now based out of Mumbai, and he is a very, very visible personality as far as well-being domain is concerned. So we will start with his presentation. But yeah, I think for the 2 speakers, I will make the introduction, as when their time for speaking comes up. So over to you, Dr. Marcus.
Thanks, Subhash. I'm just loading my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
It's visible.
Okay, I'm going to go for present mode. So it's lovely to be with you all, and a happy World Sleep Day to all of you, right? That's the calendar of today. It's a bit ironic that usually at this time of the afternoon, I would be having my afternoon nap after my meal. But here we are, and I look forward to getting back to that afterwards and get that. And we've been talking about, I'm sure, a lot of that over the conversation today. What I thought I'd spend the next 20 to 30 minutes with you all is something very interesting and very dear to all of us, which is redefining our relationship with technology. With 2020 and the effects which have now spilled over into 21 and for many years to come, I'm sure, have fundamentally changed the way we utilize all the devices. The fact that we're even doing this digitally instead of in some conference center in Delhi, which I'm sure would have been the other alternative, is a testament to that. And so I thought let's spend a little bit of time focusing on how we can realign the technology so that we can enhance our sleep, because all of us understand and can appreciate how important sleep is. These were some funny images that I pulled from the internet to just showcase where all technology plays in our lives today, right? From eating our lunch to going to sleep, to the school, to driving, to multitasking with work, even on the toilet, which is, I think, where most people engage with social networking sites, is sitting on the loo in the morning. And it's so incredible to think 5 years ago, if we were to even imagine that it would be so pervasive across every single aspect of our lives, then how far we've come and the potentials in terms of how far further we can actually go as well. From a neurobiological perspective, this is very important because we've known for some time, and the science, the body of evidence is now growing to showcase the impact that this interaction with technology is having on our brains. Because from an evolutionary perspective, of course, digital technologies is but a blink in an eyelid. But even in that small period of time, already we are seeing both microscopically and macroscopically changes happening in the function, in the structure, and in the internal connectivity within the brain tissue that we have, and some of which is positive, some of which is negative. But what I want to draw our attention to is two particular studies. One which is looking at focus and the ability to be focused, particularly when technology is involved. And we often celebrate this idea of multitasking, right? If I were in a room of people right now, I'd have asked you, how many of you believe you're good at multitasking? And about 50 to 55% of hands would go up. Of that, the vast majority would be women. This is something that we celebrate in society, that women are great multitaskers. However, unfortunately, I have to dispel the myth that really there is no such thing as multitasking. What our brains do is sequential unitasking. We're unitaskers. We just do a lot of those in quick succession, one after the other. And we've actually seen physical changes in the neocortex. That's the gray matter, the cerebellar hemispheres that you can see on these slides, and atrophy, which is a reduction or thinning in different parts of the brains that are associated with hyperattenuation when it comes to the engagement with the technology. So takeaway message is that technology is not only distracting you in the acute short term, but it's also leading to chronic long-term changes in the structure of your brain, which can have harmful effects to you over a period of time. All of these have been exaggerated through 2020, 2021. Prior to COVID, the average technology utilization in India was 4.9 hours a day. That went up to 5.5 hours a day during the lockdown, and that's gone up even further. It's currently at 6.9 hours every single day. This is the average. I remember I did a session on a similar theme at IFCI, the Indian Federation of Commerce, in 2019. It was in a room full of people. I had about 150, mainly millennials in the audience. And I asked them to start shouting out the average screen time. You know, on Apple and a lot of Androids, you can actually see your screen time usage. And the highest number I had from the room was 17 hours a day. That's an incredible number. That's practically every single hour of waking time. I mean, one can imagine that individual's sleep is significantly curtailed. But these numbers are rising, and they're rising rapidly, and that's having effects on our mental, emotional, and physical health as well. 84% of people check their phones within the first 15 minutes of waking up. I think that number is around 70 to 75% who do it in the first 2 to 3 minutes of waking up. That's because for the vast majority of people, over 55% of people, they actually sleep with their device directly next to them. 46% of people pick up their phone at least 5 times during a conversation with their friend, right? And I use this statistic because I ask people to reflect on how they feel when somebody who they're talking to picks up their phone and looks at the screen. And now imagine what you are doing to other people around you when you're doing that 5 times every single hour that you're with your friends and family. 74% of people feel they get moody and irritable when they don't have access to their mobile phone. And 73%, roughly 3/4 of people, feel compelled that they constantly need to check their phones. That's for a variety of reasons that any of you who will watch the great documentary on Netflix by my colleague Tristan Harris, someone who I've followed for many, many years. The Social Network is the name of the Netflix documentary. And it talks about how technology is designed to take over our brain from different perspectives. So why is this all important? Because we are the sum of our individual parts. And the 87 billion nerve cells that you have inside of your brain that connect with one another 7,000 times. I mean, that's literally quadrillions of synaptic connections which exist. Each of those neuronal connections, as you can see in this image, is responsible for a thought, and thoughts lead to words, and words leads to actions, and actions drive habits, and habits create behaviors, and behaviors define who we are as people. So every single one of those neural connections is important for us, and we can take control and create new healthy neuronal habits at any point in our life. So when it comes to the creation of a new habit and a new behavior, I have a very simple 3-step process. Step number 1 is start small, but start today. A lot of people, they come to me and they tell me, Doc, I want to run a marathon, or I want to get promoted, or they set these hugely ambitious goals for themselves. And I think that's fantastic, because we should each have things that we are striving and working towards. The challenge which exists for us is that is the ambition, that is the goal. That is not the habit that we want to create. That is merely the direction that we want to go in. So under every single goal, there are a set of behaviors. Under every behavior are a set of habits. And under every habit is the set of tiny biohacks. The biohack is the simplest, smallest thing that you can do today to improve your life, right? So I'm going to present to you 5 biohacks, 5 of my favorite biohacks, which are connected to this conversation around sleep and technology. And so the first rule is start small, but start today, right? Because what happens is you set yourself up for this huge ambitious goal, but along the way, you lose steam, you lose interest because you're not being successful at it. And so the simplest thing to do is actually to think about making a start and beginning it today, right? The second rule that I have is stacking them up. Imagine here, I have this box here. Imagine this box weighed 1 kilogram and I had a paper cup and I was going to rest this box on top of the paper cup. What do you think would happen to the paper cup under this 1 kilogram weight? It would crush, right? The resistance within the cup would be too little to overcome the pressure exerted by this, the gravity effect pulling this weight down. Now imagine I had 10 paper cups and I put them all out and now I rest the box. It may go down a little bit, but this time it would sustain itself. And in the same way, when it comes to building habits, we need to deconstruct them into those tiny little biohacks and then lay them all out, because the best way of forming a new habit is to link it to an existing one. And that's where it comes to stack them up like you would paper cups. The third is to celebrate the wins, right? Dopamine is this neurotransmitter which is released in our brains, and it acts to reinforce the mechanism associated with that particular habit. And that's the same reason why alcohol is addictive, or playing on your digital device is addictive, or eating sugary foods is addictive. It's because of the effects of dopamine on our brains. So we should use the same capability, the same technology, biochemistry to our advantage. So when you do something good, I want you to celebrate that. Think about what the appropriate way of celebrating that is, but make sure you do celebrate. Okay, so let's look at 5 simple biohacks to get you started, right? And the first one relates to sleep, because after all, it's World Sleep Day. The first is the optimization of melatonin. So I'm sure, given the audience, a lot of you would recognize what melatonin is. It's the sleepy hormone. It's the hormone which is secreted by the hypothalamus, which is required for our body to start to enter into the resting stage in our sleep-wake circadian cycle. The problem with the melatonin secretion is that it is affected by the ambient light levels. And that's actually a biological evolutionary advantage for us, so that we feel sleepy at night towards dusk and as we enter into night. But the light, the blue light that's emitted from our digital devices actually inhibits the secretion of melatonin, which is why when you play with your device, particularly late at night, particularly if you're in a dark room and you're only looking at this bright screen, you will have an impaired sleep response. So limit the amount of technology that you use as you go to sleep, and try and ensure that you do not engage with your devices, particularly your screens, for at least 30 minutes, hopefully 60 minutes before you go to bed. So that will allow your melatonin secretion to be as optimal as it can be. The second is to ensure the temperature of your room is nicely controlled. So the optimal temperature to get restorative sleep is between 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, about 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So make sure your temperature is within that band so that you're getting the best quality of sleep that you possibly can. Habit hack number 2 is reward yourself. Remember, I'm going back to dopamine, by reducing the amount of time that you spend on social media by only 30 minutes every day. That may seem like a lot. When I say 30 minutes a day, cut it out. But actually, if you look at your screen time pattern usage, or on Android, the equivalent of that, you will see that you're typically spending hours a day on social media: WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, well, not TikTok anymore, but Instagram Reels, LinkedIn, etc., etc. So I'd like you to start by just limiting yourself. And on most of the digital devices today, you can actually set limits for yourself. It'll make you aware when you're approaching that limit. And if you allow it to, it'll actually disable that particular app for the rest of the day once you cross that limit. So set yourself a particular targeted goal and then celebrate it somehow once you achieve those particular targets. Number 3, this is really powerful. Turn off the push notifications and generally the notifications which exist on your phone. Instead, what you can do is you make it a pull system. So when you want to check your email, you decide to download your email. When you are in control, when you have the intent of dealing with your particular emails. And actually, if you look at the study and work routines of very successful CEOs and business leaders, they will be very specific in the period of time in the day that they actually choose to engage in email. They do not have a setup where email just comes through into their inbox anytime, all the time. They actually have it set up that there's a period in the morning and then a period in the evening where they dedicate towards answering of emails. And they're not scared to not respond to an email within a 24-hour period. They will respond when they feel prepared and ready for it. So think about how you can adjust your routines when it comes to the actual response times, but also the methodology of the notification for your SMS, your WhatsApp, your calls, your WhatsApp calls, your emails, your Telegram messages, etc., etc. There are so many different mediums that we need to think of so many different structures to create that healthy relationship. All right. Think about having device-free zones in your life, in your physical environment. Think about having device-free zones. So in our home where I live, my wife and I, we've created our bedroom as a device-free zone. There are no screens in it. There's no TV. No devices are allowed in it. No phones are allowed in it. And that allows us to get good quality sleep. It teaches our 2 young kids, we have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, how important it is to ensure that you're not playing on your devices all the time. And when we go to the bedroom, we can basically spend time with one another, read a book, have a conversation, sleep, and enjoy that oasis of digital disconnection and detoxification. So think about how in your own home, in your own office, in your own workspace, how you can create a technology-free zone. My last and my favorite one is our relationship with nature, right? We are animals, we're mammals which have been designed to be out in nature, whether it's the impact of the grass on our feet, whether it's the signals of light which gets sent onto our retina from the sun, whether it's the vitamin D which is absorbed via our skin and metabolized in our kidneys, whether it's the oxygen that's fueling our lungs. It's all of these things that we fall in love with nature, but we've constructed lives which are full of concrete, full of glass, full of artificial materials that we've disconnected ourselves. And whenever we do get a chance to engage with nature, like going to the park for a walk, we now have these digital devices which we're constantly looking at this screen instead of enjoying the color of the flower, the humming of the birds, and the sight of a butterfly. So I encourage every day to try and build at least 10 minutes of time where you spend in nature. Remember what it's like to walk around barefoot, pick up a rock, play with it in your hands, get to feel mud again between your toes. If you've got young kids, you will understand exactly what I'm saying, because they teach us how amazing it is to fall in love with the most simplest of things around us and ensure that you do not have your digital device with you. All right, that's all I wanted to share with you. I've recently released the book At the Human Edge. Here it is. It's just became a bestseller. And I'd love for you to become readers and supporters of the mission. Here's a code, the QR code that leads you straight to chapter 1, the introduction, and I invite you to become readers. And I've also got my contact details here. I'm very active on social media, as Subhash knows, and I'm very happy to answer your questions either online or via email on LinkedIn or even today itself. So thank you for your time today, and I wish you good sleep habits and good sleep hygiene.
Thank you, Dr. M. That was a great presentation, especially when the interface with technology is an issue. We need to listen to young leaders so that they throw the light on the latest developments because they have their ears to the ground. Moving on now, in the next presentation will be by Dr. Ravi Gupta, Professor Dr. Ravi Gupta. He is an associate professor with AIIMS Rishikesh, and his topic is sleep disorders from a psychiatrist point of view. A word about his background. He is, as I mentioned, he's an associate professor with AIIMS, and he trained at SMS Medical College, Jaipur. He he had some kind of a special interest in sleep disorders and sleep medicine, and he had set up a laboratory also in Jaipur. He had worked on a fellowship with American Academy of Sleep Medicine in the past. Dr. Ravi, over to you for your presentation.
पहले मैं करने के लिए आ जाऊंगा मंडे के बाद है लेकिन
Dr. Ravi, can you hear me?
बोल के रखा मैंने उनको रूलर का कितना बताया था तुम्हें 4,000 और इसका 1,500 रुपया बोला है मैंने 1,800 रुपये उसको बता देता हूँ
सर्विसिंग का Subhash ji, we are not able to hear the voice.
Varun, could you kindly look into the voice part? It's not playing the voice out.
Is it audible now?
Still, it's not. It's not.
How to replay it then?
Please.
तुम्हारा आवाज आ रहा है
Number you have dialed is currently busy.
I would request the attendees to kindly
We'll be discussing about
Is it audible now?
perspective.
Yes, it is. It is. Thank you.
When I started my career in sleep medicine, I was asked by a number of different specialists, you are a psychiatrist, what do you have to do in sleep medicine? They could be with your own patients. Do you really understand what is sleep apnea? So I have organized this talk in various sections. So first we will talk about the development of sleep medicine. Then we will discuss about the sleep problems that we see in patients who are suffering from psychiatric disorders. Then we will also examine the evidence, whether the patients who are on psychotropic medications, whether they develop any sleep disorder or sleep symptoms. Then we will examine the sleep disorders that actually masquerade psychiatric disorders, and then I'll summarize my talk. So first talk about the development of sleep medicine as a specialty. Of course, we know that the sleep medicine is still in infancy in India, but in the developed countries like US, it is a specialized, developed field, and which is getting the people from all the specialties that we have already. So if we look at the history of sleep medicine in USA, In 1975, the Association of Sleep Disorders Centers was formed, and the neurologists, psychiatrists, and the psychologists were the part of this association. And major bulk of the patients were provided by the psychiatrists and the neurologists. In 1984, the board ASDC they started certification of clinical polysomnography. So people who are good in polysomnography, they were examined and they were given the certification to practice clinical polysomnography. In 2005, American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology started certification in sleep medicine. So here you can see, at least if we go by the US data, that psychiatry has always been in the forefront in sleep medicine. If we look at the certification examination for the sleep medicine in USA, we can see here that the neurologists and psychiatrists, they actually made a sizable number both in 2007 and 2009. I'm very fortunate to say that this number has increased further. But when we look at this sleep medicine as a specialty in India, when the first sleep disorder center was established in Safdarjung Hospital in 1990s, Professor J.C. Suri was the key person to start the sleep laboratory in that hospital. If I talk about today, we have 4 different societies which are promoting the education of sleep medicine in India. We have Indian Society for Sleep Research, we have Indian Sleep Disorder Association, we have Southeast Asian Academy of Sleep Medicine, and Indian Association of Surgeons for Sleep Apnea. Now, when I talk about the sleep and psychiatry, we have to actually go to the classification systems, because these are the classification systems that we often use to code and diagnose the psychiatric disorders. If we look at the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5, which was proposed in 2013, we will find that DSM-5 has made all the sleep-wake disorders, including the sleep apnea, as the part of the psychiatric disorders. However, when we look at the International Classification of Diseases 11th edition, then you would find that they have removed all the sleep disorders from various sections of different specialties, whether it's pulmonology, neurology, and psychiatry. And they have created a separate section on sleep disorders. Now, this is actually a welcoming move, because it shows that sleep medicine is a different specialty, and the people from different disciplines, they can come and they can practice sleep medicine. Now let's examine the data regarding the sleep problems and the psychiatric disorders. Well, if you look at the literature which is available regarding the sleep disorders and the psychiatric disorders, you will find that there is a bidirectional association. You will get the data which suggests that insomnia can lead to anxiety, depression, and same way you can find the data which suggests that insomnia is either a symptom of depression or anxiety, or can lead to or these disorders can lead to emergence of insomnia. Similarly, along with many psychiatric disorders, there is a change in the sleep architecture, and that can actually give rise to a number of other sleep disorders, including the hypersomnia, sleep-related movement disorders, and parasomnia. When it comes to the sleep apnea, we all know that certain psychiatric disorders, for example, we talk about opioid use disorder, they can give rise to central sleep apnea. Similarly, a high rate of obstructive sleep apnea has been found in the patients suffering from various psychotic disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and many other disorders. So we can see here that the sleep disorders and the psychiatric disorders, they at times Now, those who are practicing in psychiatry, they all know that when we get the patients with the mood disorders, psychosis, anxiety, now, so there has been substantial literature which suggests that insomnia can give rise to psychiatric disorders. Here I am quoting two meta-analyses. First meta-analysis was done by the Licking et al. And they included the studies which were prospective in nature, and the mean follow-up in the studies was around 60 months, and the pooled analysis showed that insomnia doubles the risk of depression in future. So that means that even if a person is suffering from insomnia, that should not be taken lightly because it can give rise to other disorders. Similarly, another meta-analysis where the mean follow-up was again 61 months, it showed that the insomnia increases the odds for depression, anxiety, alcohol abuse, and psychosis, and the figure given in the parenthesis are the odds which are which show that there is an increased odd for these psychiatric disorders. Now, when it comes to the addiction, we all know that there is a close association between psychiatric disorders and the addiction. People who are suffering from addiction, they actually show poor sleep during the intoxication phase, during the withdrawal phase, and during continuation phase. So this meta-analysis showed that people who are suffering from tobacco, they have difficulty with the sleep efficiency, they have reduced total sleep time, their sleep-wake phase shifts to the later time, so that means they go to bed at late in the night and they wake up late in the morning, and during the day they have a great difficulty in paying attention to whatever work they are doing. Similarly, if we look at the alcohol, in addition to the four the different domains of the sleep that we have already discussed in relation to tobacco, these patients, they also complain of poor satisfaction with the sleep. That means they suffer from poor quality sleep. And secondly, the regularity of their sleep is also disturbed. Same thing we see with the marijuana, where there is the people who are using the marijuana, they have poor efficiency of the sleep. That means even when they are sleeping, then they are not getting optimal sleep in the bed. Then their sleep time is reduced. They feel difficulty in concentrating during the day. Now, friends, this actually shows that how deleterious can these substances be on your sleep beside all other health effects and the cognitive and the emotional effects they have on your body. Now, coming to the obstructive sleep apnea, a meta-analysis found that the patients who are suffering from major depressive disorder, so 30% of them, they actually show signs of depression, obstructive sleep apnea. Now, always remember, friends, as we will discuss in subsequent slides, the obstructive sleep apnea itself can be mistaken for major depressive disorder in a sizable number of patients. Secondly, nearly 1 in the 4 patients suffering from bipolar disorder, they suffer from obstructive sleep apnea. According to this meta-analysis, nearly 15% of the patients who are suffering from schizophrenia, they have comorbid obstructive sleep apnea. However, this range varies, and the other meta-analyses have reported that the percentage of the patients with schizophrenia who suffer from obstructive sleep apnea can vary as low as 5% to as high as 90%. And This meta-analysis, which we have shown by the Stubbs et al., it showed that the main predictor for the obstructive sleep apnea in these patients was the high BMI. And we all know the relationship between the obstructive sleep apnea and the obesity. Coming again to addiction. In the previous slide, we discussed that the addiction disrupts your sleep architecture, your sleep quality, sleep duration, and sleep timing. But in the recent past, we have come to know that a change in the circadian rhythm can also lead to the addiction. And we have seen that people who are suffering from major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia, many of them, they show a change in the circadian rhythm. And that is the reason, that could be one of the reasons that the prevalence of the substance use is quite high among these patients. Similarly, the studies have shown that alcohol use increases in the winters. Whether it is the effect of the reduced daylight, we do not know. Then the people who are owls, that means who actually prefer to work till late in the night and wake up late in the morning, they actually are prone to develop alcohol use disorder. And lastly, the people who are having circadian misalignment, they are also prone to get addicted to these substances. And what do we mean by circadian misalignment? Friends, we are designed by our nature to stay awake and alert during the day and to sleep at night. Now, because of the various factors, the social pressure, the presence of electricity, the presence of various gadgets, and many other reasons, we often go to bed late in the night. And especially in the big cities, the nightlife is a new fashion. And all these changes in the sleep pattern that we are inducing in ourselves, they actually increase the risk of developing substance use. Now, when we talk about the addictive substances, so addictive substances can be categorized into three major categories. One, those are pharmacologically neutral, but of course they are very, very few, and we say that they are pharmacologically neutral because we actually do not know what kind of effect they have on our brain as of now. Then certain substances, they are stimulants. For example, coffee. For example, tea. For example, nicotine. For example, cocaine. All these substances are stimulants. So they increase the alertness and they reduce the sleep. On the other hand, some substances are actually sleep promoting or somnogenic. For example, we talk about alcohol, we talk about sleeping pills, we talk about the opioids and the marijuana. All these substances actually, they reduce the functioning of the brain and they give us a sense of relaxation. And use of these substances can lead to hypersomnia in the short term. But it is not only the short term effect. When we talk about the addiction in the sleep, we have to consider the effect in the long term. We have to consider the effect during when a person is not consuming the substance. And in all those phases, that means the withdrawal and the long-term continuation, many of these substances, they can induce the number of sleep disorders that we have mentioned in this cartoon. Now, whether we have examined that the insomnia can lead to depression. Other issue is, if we treat insomnia, can we prevent depression? Of course, we do not have any data which suggests that we can prevent the depression, but we have robust data which suggests that the person who are having insomnia and also depression, in those patients, if the insomnia is addressed, their depression also improves. But in this meta-analysis, the studies were involved, were included, and many of these studies they had many methodological issues. First of the issue was that the studies they followed up the patient for different time frames. So the follow-up varied between 1 to 6 months. Secondly, the measures used to improve sleep varied. So on one arm, the studies used the CBTI, but in the control arm, the studies they continued the treatment as usual. Many of the studies they included the relaxation therapy. Many of the studies they chose sleep hygiene in the control arm. And we all know about the Hawthorne effect in this regard, and that is the reason that the effect size is small. Third issue is in all the studies the antidepressant was continued. Now, many of us who consider sleep problems and the insomnia as a symptom of depression, they can argue that the improvement in the depression as well as the sleep was because of the effect of the antidepressant. Secondly, the different classes of the antidepressants were used, and we know that certain classes of the antidepressants they actually induce the sleep. So these are the issues that could not be examined in these studies. And then lastly, the patients were given the sleep diary, but many of the patients they did not complete the sleep diary. Rather, they reported a subjective improvement at one time frame. Now, we all know that in absence of sleep diary, it is very difficult to find out the objective evidence in the improvement of the sleep. So, these studies they have all these issues, but despite having all these issues, the studies have shown that treatment of insomnia has positive effect on the depression. And there are two mechanisms which were proposed for this improvement. First, we all know from the functional studies that there is an overlap between the neurobiology of insomnia and the depression. So once you treat one thing, other thing is likely to improve. Secondly, we all know that insomnia is associated with neuroinflammation and the systemic inflammation. We all know about the inflammatory theory of depression. So once we treat the insomnia, inflammation reduces, and that could be the reason that the depression has in these studies. Now coming to the next section, whether the patients who are consuming psychotropic medications, for example, antidepressants, hypnotics, antipsychotics, and mood stabilizer, what happens to this? Now, this article mentioned that the people who are using antidepressants, they are at higher risk of developing the arousal-related sleep disorders, what are also known as non-REM parasomnias. So, non-REM parasomnias include sleep terrors, sleepwalking, sleep talking, and confusional arousal. One variant of sleepwalking is sleep-related eating disorder, and that also increases in the patient who are on antidepressants. Similarly, the patients who are on antidepressant medication, they are at higher risk of developing nightmares and the REM sleep behavior disorder. In nightmares, the patient wakes up from the sleep witnessing a disturbing dream and at times shouts. In REM sleep behavior disorder, the patient they act on their dream. So whatever they are dreaming, their body is starting acting similar to that. Now, we all know that most of the antipsychotics, especially the second generation antipsychotics, they actually induce the weight gain. And many of the antipsychotics, they also block histamine receptors in the brain. Now, by blocking the histamine receptors, they reduce the alertness and they increase the total sleep time, and the patient they develop hypersomnia. Similarly, the antipsychotic induced weight gain can lead to emergence of obstructive sleep apnea, and this could be one reason for the findings of the increased chances of obstructive sleep apnea among patients who are suffering from psychotic disorders. Secondly, antipsychotics also produce some kind of neural changes and reduces the muscle tone in the upper airway, and that can lead to the increased spasticity of the upper airway, collapse of the upper airway during sleep, and consequent obstructive. Now, thirdly, we examine the sleep disorders, whether they masquerade psychiatric disorders. So we discussed about the insomnia and how can it can lead to the symptoms of depression. Here we talk about one more disorder which is common and is in around 2% of the Indian population, and this is restless leg syndrome. Patients with restless leg syndrome, when they are not doing anything, they are just sitting idle, or when they are lying down idle in the bed, they have a strong urge to move their legs. This urge is occasionally associated with some kind of dysesthesias or abnormal sensations in their leg muscles, which is usually calf or the thigh. At times, arms are also involved. Now, these symptoms, at least in the initial part of the illness, are limited only to the evening time. But as the disease progresses, the symptoms they also start during the daytime. The symptoms they become worse when the patients they are at rest, so they are quasogenic. But as soon as the patients they start stretching their legs, they move their legs, they tie some kind of cloth on their leg, or when they massage their legs, these symptoms are relieved. But as soon as they discontinue these kind of strategies, compensatory strategies, the symptoms they reappear. So this is what the restless leg syndrome is. Now we did a study and we took 99 subjects from the psychiatry OPD, and with the chief complaints of insomnia, generalized body pain, and fatigue. Now these are the patients who can be diagnosed as either depression or somatoform disorder or chronic fatigue syndrome. None of them were given the diagnosis of RLS previously, but all of them they actually were suffering from restless leg syndrome. They were given the psychotropics, but they did not improve despite the years of therapy. Now, another study which was published in American Journal of Managed Care, it showed that nearly 70% subjects of the RLS they complain of insomnia. And insomnia in these patients, it presents as either the difficulty in falling asleep or can lead to multiple nocturnal awakenings for no reason, except for the leg symptoms. Now, these patients, they often have multiple comorbidities, for example, the anxiety, depression, and hypertension. So, in total, the untreated restless leg syndrome or unrecognized restless leg syndrome become a huge economic burden because these patients, they are not able to function well time. Now, why the RLS? It actually leads to the increased awakening. Here you can see a 30-second epoch from a person who is suffering from RLS. If you look at this part, the leg movement, these patients are having slight leg movements during the night, side twitching, which nobody can observe, but can be traced only using the EMG during polysomnography, and this is associated with an arousal, a micro arousal as we see in the EEG. So these patients do not actually wake up during the sleep, but actually they have micro arousals and they complain of poor quality sleep. Now, let's talk about a person who comes to the psychiatry OPD. He complains of sudden irritable mood. He complains of multiple body pains and fatigue. He complains of poor concentration, memory lapses, and says that the nighttime sleep is non-refreshing. Most of the psychiatrists may diagnose this case as depression. But the moment I ask about whether you snore at night, whether your bed partners have witnessed any pauses in your breath, and you can take the history regarding the snorting from the bed partner, or we can take the history regarding drooling of saliva on the pillow at night. If these are present, suddenly the diagnosis changes from depression to obstructive sleep apnea. So the sleep issues are to be expanded in all the patients who are presenting with depression. And these patients who are suffering from obstructive sleep apnea, here you can see that they present with a reduction in the amplitude of their breathing, or they stop breathing completely for more than 10 seconds, which is usually associated with reduction in the oxygen saturation, or what we call as hypoxemia in their blood, and is also associated with microarousals, as you can see here as a dense EEG marking. So these patients, they all complain of poor quality sleep, non-refreshing sleep at night, and consequently they can complain of depression. So in summary, what I can say that the sleep disorders and the psychiatric disorders, they can have either bidirectional relationship, and each increasing the chances of the other. Many a times sleep disorders can masquerade psychiatric disorders, and also the medications which are given for the psychiatric disorders, they can give rise to certain sleep disorders. Thank you very much for your patient listening, and I wish you all a very happy World Sleep Day 2021. Thank you once again.
The next speaker is Miss Radhika Gupta. She is country selling manager in IKEA, India. She will be speaking on harmonious home environment for better sleep. A word about Radhika Gupta. She is the custodian of various touch points at IKEA, which includes affordable affordable offers for home decoration and doing the home. Furnishing is also part of it. Retail environment, Indian retail environment is her area of special interest. Across small stores, large format stores, in shop and online as well. Over to you, Radhika.
Thank you, Mr. Rana, and thank you for having us on this extremely important day of World Sleep Day. We at IKEA know that this is a key focus area for us, and we're constantly trying to find the right solutions for our customers as per their needs and preferences. So to start with, everyday life for the many people, sleep is vital to the overall well-being of our customers. And it is extremely important that we help them with their sleep preferences and to enable a good night's sleep. We care for our customers and we provide home furnishing solutions that support them in their sleep and in to have a good night's rest. As per experts, in these extraordinary times, we see that the home has been the center of all activities, and as a result, we are also seeing sleep getting impacted. The home is pretty much, the only space we have to have our daily activities. We see the living room, which is doubling up as the playground. We have our dining area, which has become the restaurant. And then, of course, our bedrooms, which are being used to sleep, study, play, etc. Having said that, the home is donning multiple hats. You have multiple roles being impacted. This, of course, with the economic hardships. So it's extremely important to have a harmonious environment and to have the right sleeping solutions to create the right ambience to get a good night's sleep. So let's discover a little bit on how a home furnishing retailer and we at IKEA can help. When it comes to comfort, we are all different. And that is why at IKEA, we look at having different solutions to meet our customers' needs. Comfort is very personal. Some of us can sleep well. We need next to nothing to get a good night's sleep. And yet for most of us, we need something special, something comfortable to really get us to. And hence it is about what is it that we can find for our customers to help them find a good night's rest. The most important thing is to provide a complete sleep experience. So it's not just about choosing the right mattress or the right pillow or the quilt or the linen, but what we do with our co-workers is to do a comprehensive analysis of our customers' needs and preferences and then help them find a solution. Comfort, as we said, is very, very personal. It is not just about the bed, but like we said, it's about various other elements that work with it. So having said that, comfort is unique to our customers. And then we also find that comfort is very different across the world. Take, for instance, the firmness of mattresses. Asia Pacific pretty much prefers the firmer, the better, whereas in European markets, it's quite different. Along with certain sleep experts, we have actually created a complete sleep guide, a sleep comfort guide for our co-workers to help find the right solutions for our customers along with the customers. And this sleep comfort guide is available both to our co-workers as well as to our customers. As you can see, comfort and quality of sleep is contingent on not just the bed, but so much more. It is our environment, it is our bedtime rituals, our sleeping habits, the color of our walls, sound, etc. All of them play a significant role in creating a good night's rest. So let's try and discover what is it that we really need to do to have a good night's sleep. Now, some of us are aware that we find focus of people who are willing to spend a lot more money on perhaps the latest watch or the tech gadget, but how many of us are willing to invest in the right mattress or an ergonomic pillow, all of which impact our health directly by enabling a good night's sleep to create physical and mental well-being. So really what we find is the importance and the need to educate people and to spread awareness on just how important a right mattress and a pillow is amongst the various other elements or the steps that will help create a good night's sleep. As we said, sleep is vital to the overall well-being to create a better everyday life. At this point, it is also important to ask ourselves just how should we go about achieving this? At IKEA, we have discovered and created a 6-step process to peaceful sleep. This includes comfort. It talks about air quality, light, sound, color and furnishings, as well as temperature. So let's explore this a little bit in detail. The collective comfort of your bedding, your mattress, and your quilt and pillows will determine the quality of support your body and spine receive during a good night's rest. Then this leads us to the question of how do we sleep? Broadly, experts agree that there are 4 sleeping positions. There is people who sleep on their front, which is least preferred. You have people that sleep on their back, which is the most preferred. You have people that sleep on their side, which is next best. And then, of course, there's the fetal position. So when we start with that, the important thing is that you then take the next step to finding the right mattress. Now, this can be quite challenging and a little complicated, given the number of types or variants of mattresses available, the materials, the choice, etc. And then, of course, we know that because people don't buy mattresses, it can be quite challenging and it can be a bit daunting as well. A general rule of thumb is the heavier you are, the firmer the mattress should be. And then, of course, you can't really generalize, because if for those who have back problems, then there's a completely different need to support them. What we also find is that what about couples that share a room or share a bed, actually? How should we help them and when they have different needs or different preferences for comfort? And here the simple solution is to use 2 single mattresses of different comfort levels so that both can enjoy night's rest. So at IKEA, we have Bonnell spring mattresses such as Haslow, which come in 2 firmnesses, and the Hovak pocket spring mattress, which is one of our top sellers, and again comes in 2 firmnesses of firm and extra firm. So really, these are some good tips and ideas to see how do you go about selecting the right mattress. And then we talk about pillows. Now, people are different and they sleep differently. Hence, at IKEA, we have created a whole host of ergonomic pillows which come in different shapes and sizes. Choose a pillow that will provide continuous support and keep the natural line of your spine from your lower back to your head. You will know that you have chosen the right pillow, provided your neck shoulders and head feel rested and relaxed. And then, of course, your airways are open. We have a Skogslock ergonomic pillow, which is actually multi-position and works for all sleeping preferences because it has a curved side that helps support people that sleep on their back and their side. And then we have a wedge side to it, which helps people sleep and get comfortable when they sleep on their stomach. Likewise, we have the Wildcorn pillow, and this comes in two sort of heights. There's a low one to support people that sleep on their stomach, and then there's the high pillow, which helps people support on their back as well as on their side. And then this leads us to the fact that how do we dress our beds? That is very important. The materials we use. For most of us, cotton works just fine. That is our go-to mantra. We like cotton sheets, and that works fine. But for some who'd like a little more luxurious feel, it's about perhaps using linen. And then it's most important to see what material works for you and also to consider allergies. Dust mites, moles, etc. What is it that could take away from your good night's sleep? And hence we recommend the use of mattress protectors. We even have a waterproof mattress protector in case you have children sleeping with you or toddlers called Grunsnav. And we have pillow protectors like Angscorn. So these are some of the solutions as far as comfort goes. And then let's talk about light. The darker the bedroom, the better it is to sleep. A darker bedroom is crucial for good night's sleep. And it's also important that you start to get your body ready to go to sleep. So start gradually darkening down the room environment. You could consider, for example, we have a Fado lamp with an LED light in the range. And this is absolutely fantastic because it creates a soft, cozy mood for the evening. You could use it in your bedroom, in your living room, etc. And then, of course, if you have a partner that likes to read into the night and you like to turn in early, then we have the Navlinge wall LED clamp light, which actually just works really beautifully in the bedroom, adjusts to the headboard, and then it provides you good glare-free light. So these are some examples to use with light. And then, of course, not to forget how you dress your windows. What is the window treatment like? Should you look at layering? Should you look at creating blockout curtains? And we have the Majgul, which not only gives you prevention from light, but it also gives you privacy, and then also takes care of the temperature by taking away the drafty winds of the winter or the excessive heat of the summer. Moving on to the temperature, and I think one of the earlier panelists also mentioned that your body temperature and the temperature of the room is extremely important. Your body temperature plays a very important role in how you sleep. This is directly linked to the linen that you choose. So how do you dress your bed? In the winter, you probably need a bedspread, a quilt, a throw, etc., to dress it up a little more to feel that cozy warmth. However, in the summer, you probably need to dress that down and use lighter bedding material to help you. And then here we've also developed with some experts and designers the Vapnistrom mattress, which is made of natural materials like natural latex, coconut fibers, cotton and wool, all to provide extra comfort and give you a really peaceful sleeping experience, because this has a lot of breathability factor. It allows for good ventilation, and of course it gives you even temperature. So these are some solutions as far as temperature goes. And then we come to an important factor which we tend to ignore a lot. How about noise? What do we do about noise? Now, we live in joint families, we live with children at home, they're an integral part of our life. And then, of course, we also live sometimes in complexes, etc., where there is a lot going on, both internally and externally. How do you look at blocking out noise over here? When it comes to noise reduction, you could look at a few home furnishing elements such as rugs, such as carpets, layering of curtains, upholstered furniture. The idea is to start making your sleep environment as quiet as possible. Muffle out the unwanted sounds. Really look at layering of curtains so that you could, add more textiles, plenty of textiles to your room. Consider upholstered furniture like armchairs. And at IKEA, I'm happy to announce that we have an entire range of upholstered beds that we have just launched between end of last year and this year. And one such bed is the Tuford bed, which is super comfortable. It has soft velvet finishings, and it has curved edges to really mitigate and mute out any of the noise pollution that you could have. We also have many others. And then I'm happy to also share that we have the Oddlog, which is quite an innovative product. It this is actually a sound absorbing panel. So it could work as a room divider between your room and perhaps, if you're sharing it with an older or younger sibling, or if you have an open space bedroom, then it can work as a panel of curtains to divide your room from the rest of the house, to take away those little annoying noises of utensils or the TV, etc. So these panels are completely customizable. There's a front and a back, as well as mitigate sound. We then talk about the fifth and important point, which is how to improve the air quality in your room. Air quality, air humidity levels really impact your breathing at night, as well as impact how well you sleep. And honestly, this is probably one of the areas that one least focuses on, and the bedroom is known to have one of the worst air or the poorest air levels in the home. This is largely down to the room size sometimes, and of course the fact that we also tend to keep our bedroom door closed for privacy. So here the important aspect is to ventilate it. The bigger the room, the more ventilation, the better the air quality level. And roughly we suggest to have at least 50% humidity level. And then, of course, this is something that can be very, very easily achieved, because if you keep the windows open, you allow for ample air circulation, you will be able to achieve better air quality levels. And just in case that's not possible, then consider having a humidifier in case your humidity levels are not correct, or a dehumidifier in case the humidity levels are too high. Then another really simple trick is to have air purifying plants, something as basic as an aloe vera plant. Not just that it looks great, but also really works well to improving the air quality. And of course, as some of the other panelists have mentioned, cut out tech from your room. Consider removing digital devices, because not just for other reasons that they explained from a melatonin perspective, but even air quality is one of the aspects that gets most impacted. So look at removing TVs, computers completely to improve air quality, and of course to reduce the air pollutants in your room. IKEA globally, we have launched a home smart range of air purifiers. So very shortly, even in India, we will have these available, called Vernünftig, which is an air purifier in your bedroom. And then when we talk about color and furnishings, color plays a very vital role in our lives. We all love color, and especially as Indians, I think we all thrive on having vibrant colors to work with. Then we know that color also impacts the mood, color impacts our emotions. We have recommendations, for example, reds and pinks and warm colors work better for people who have trouble with waking up in the morning and starting their day, give you a kickstart, and consider having those on your walls. However, for those who need to unwind and want to get a good night's rest and need that for the next morning to really wake up fully energized, consider blues, consider greens, consider yellows. They all have a calming effect. They also seem to boost creativity. So in effect, what we're saying is that it is very much possible to create a calming sanctuary, even in a restless city, even in an absolutely stressful city. It's completely possible, no matter what your wallet size. And then some of the furnishings that one can consider over here is also, for example, what is the size of the bed? Is that conducive to the person sleeping on it? Have we made space for perhaps tucking away those extra pillows or bed linen, etc.? So do we have underbed storage? How are we for, a bedside table being easily accessible for your alarm clock and your books, etc.? So those are other furnishings that one can look at. And then we know many of our customers live in big cities but have small homes. So for them, we have created sofa bed solutions such as the Free Hitten, which doubles up really well during the day as a sofa to invite people and guests, etc. And then at night, for those guests that stay back, you could use that as a sofa bed. Again, it's upholstered, so it's soft furnishings, mitigates noise, etc. And of course, we have the Clips bed tray, which during the day can work for as a laptop table, and then in the morning can be your breakfast table. So those are some ideas to sort of work with. We also recommend, of course, following a basic routine of your bedtime rituals and making sure you follow those. Then when it comes to children, it is important that children have a good night's rest and then they have their space. So consider having extendable beds that grow with your child. We have the slat, we have the minen. This gives them their own able to have a good night's rest. These are all good options, and then they can also choose from colorful patterns of quilts and linen, etc. that works for them. One of the feedback that we've been getting since we've opened our store and even globally is that customers are very, very sensitive and aware of sustainable materials being used in the bedroom. So especially with the bed linen, etc., that they use, and because you touch and feel and it's close to your skin, it's extremely important to know how good they are and whether they're natural fabrics or natural materials and how well they're sourced. So for us at IKEA, we use materials that are sustainable, such as better cotton, linen, bamboo, and lyocell, which is made from recycled plastic bottles. All of this will help towards, creating better home furnishing solutions for you at home. So if I was to sort of sum up a little bit, I would say, get the basics right, find the right mattress, find the right pillow and the right quilt, then look at dressing them, find the material that works best for you, darken down the room, look at the light over there, cool down, look at your body temperature, tidy up. A lot of people feel much better when they have less clutter around them. So how is it that you should work with that? Noise reduction, like we mentioned, add more textiles, look at rugs, look at upholstered furniture and fabric that you could use within your bedroom. And then, of course, look at creating your haven. Most people go to sleep well in a room that they enjoy and that they feel cozy in. So that is most important for people to spend time creating. Create your haven, use fabric, use plants, use all the colors that work for you, and look at creating the best sleep possible. So in conclusion, I would say keep the 6 steps in mind. At every step, look at available opportunities to add natural materials, avoid chemicals in your bedroom so that you and your family can have a sustainable life at home and a good night's sleep. So with that, I invite you to join the sleep revolution at IKEA for your life at home. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Radhika. That was a great presentation. Now we are open for questions. In fact, we have received quite a number of them. If I could post the first question to Dr. Marcus. Dr. Marcus, can you hear me? Please unmute yourself. Dr. Marcus, are you there? It seems you are not. Anyway, Dr. Ravi Gupta, there are many questions targeted at you.
Right.
So some of them look repetitive, but if these can be kind of clubbed, maybe you can give a comprehensive reply to some of them at one go, and if some of them are to be handled individually, you can do that. Over to you, Dr. Ravi.
Yeah, just a minute. Okay, so I can see some questions. So there are epilepsy and falling asleep is difficult for me. Yes, this is not uncommon. And many of the patients who are suffering from epilepsy, they also have comorbid insomnia. Then second question is not able to sound sleep, struggle to sleep. How long can a person live without sleeping even for a minute? Yes, of course, very true. Sleep is very important for us, and it's important for the rejuvenation as well as the repair of the body. So it's very difficult to suffer from insomnia and stay functional. And yes, the relationship between stress and depression, of course, as I mentioned already in my presentation, it's bidirectional. So we have enough data which suggests that the insomnia can lead to depression. In similar way, depression can also present, the sleep problem can also be a symptom of depression. And of course, the stress is a common factor between the two, and the stress actually can lead to insomnia as well as emergence of depression in the people who are genetically predisposed to develop these disorders. Okay, now this is an interesting question. The sudden jerk or the startle response during the early part of sleep is quite common, and the good thing is it's a benign condition. And this usually happens when you are sleep deprived, when you are, say, in the state of fever, or when you are under stress. And this is common, so maybe you can just ignore this condition. Okay, how can I sleep better? Of course, we had a word. I mean, we'll be having a session on the sleep hygiene. I think that can help you. If that doesn't help you, then probably you need to see a sleep specialist. Rushing thoughts during sleep again can be a sign of anxiety or insomnia itself. So maybe you need to get help from a psychiatrist or a sleep specialist. Okay, anxiety without medication, I'm not really sure. It actually depends upon the severity of the anxiety and second issue is whether your anxiety is just situational or it is a disorder. So if it's a disorder, definitely you would need some medication. But if the anxiety is situational, then probably the relaxation therapies and the other behavioral management can work. And why today's youth facing sleep problems? Well, it's very difficult to say that whether the sleep problems are new. I think the sleep problems are there forever. But yes, in the today's world, the sleep problem has been linked to a number of situations. One is the stress. Second is the changing environment, lack of activity, say change in the food habits. And we have the data which suggests that the use of the processed food, the cold drinks, caffeinated beverages, they all take away the sleep. Of course, as Dr. Marcus has already mentioned about the effect of these gadgets on the sleep. So I think that is one of the other reasons for the sleeping problem. And third is, again, I think we have to understand that sleep and wake cycle is also a kind of learned behavior by the brain. You must have experienced that when it's your time to take lunch or the breakfast, you feel hungry. But if you delay that time, or if you do not take breakfast at that particular time, or if you do not take meal at that particular time, then after maybe half an hour or so, you don't feel the hunger. And same way is the sleep. When it is a time to bed, and if you're following a regular schedule, then your brain gives you a signal. It is a time to bed and it's time to wake up. But if your sleep-wake schedule is haywire, then your brain does not get enough information regarding the timing of falling asleep and waking up. So that again can be a problem with the reason could be the problems with the youth. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ravi, there is a question, although it has been targeted at Dr. Marcus, he is not around, but it was very much part of your presentation as well. It asks, is long-term restless syndrome serious? Does it require any kind of medication? How can it be cured?
Yep. So yes, if a person is suffering from restless sleep syndrome, yes, it is a serious condition because it actually delays the sleep onset, also worsens the sleep quality, and the person may develop sleep deprivation and the consequent effects. So this has to be dealt with. We have some preliminary data which suggests that the people who are suffering from RLS, they can be at higher risk of developing the metabolic syndrome, the diabetes, as well as cardiovascular disorders. So yes, it should be cured. Now, again, coming to the treatment part of RLS, I mean, we have two different modalities for the treatment of the RLS. One is the non-pharmacological methods. So these are just the behavioral manipulations that we make. So following the sleep hygiene is one part. Following a regular sleep schedule is another part. Third, reducing the caffeinated beverages and reducing the exercise late in the evening is other part. And these are few of the behavioral strategies. And if these strategies that do not improve the RLS, probably you may need to go and undergo some kind of investigations, especially regarding the iron stores, LFT, KFT, And after that, the sleep med or maybe psychiatrist or a neurologist can prescribe you some medication to improve the RLS. So yes, you should take these medications, and till the time this condition improves. But always remember, this is a condition which comes and go, and you can have multiple episodes in your life. So your doctor can give you the best advice regarding that. For how long to continue.
Thank you. Radhika, there are two questions for you. One is, does IKEA provide customized mattresses? And second is, what role IKEA food provides, plays in terms of creating in-store pull? Radhika.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rana. So I will take the question that popped up first, IKEA food and its role in creating in-store pull. I think today is World Sleep Day. We should focus on sleep. We should focus on how do we improve our customers' lives at home. But having said that, IKEA food is extremely important. We do understand that our customers that come and visit the store, and we would want you to spend time understanding all the home furnishing solutions that we have in our showroom and market hall. So we do provide great food options. We've been doing very well in Hyderabad as well as in Navi Mumbai, and then of course globally as well. So I do request you to come and visit our stores and enjoy the food there. And then when it comes to, does IKEA provide customized mattresses? Well, let me just say that when we came into this country into 2013 and we started to do our research and analysis, we found that there is no single standard size on the Indian market, whether it's for mattresses or it's for beds. So for us, from a large scale retail point of view, we needed to find solutions and provide mattresses which are as close to a standard size as possible for the many customers that we have. So from that perspective, we have about 3 to 5 sizes available, single, and about 3 in double, queen, and king available for our customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. Dr. Marcus is coming online. If he is back, yeah. So, Dr. Marcus, essentially 2 questions for you. One is, what do you think of Google Nest app? Because that's serious technology, intruding into the bedrooms. And second is, how gamification of sleep is gaining traction. You can make references to Indian scene also, which looks a laggard, but internationally, how these two techs are making a difference, if at all, in the sleep tracking and incentivization.
Yeah, so for the first one, I think irrespective of whether it's Google Nest or the Alexa device, I've got one at home. I've got the Alexa device. It's not in the bedroom, it's in the living room. And they have its advantages and benefits. Definitely with 2 young kids, it's very easy for them to activate it rather than having to have a text-based interface. And to some degree, I feel in the next 3 years, given the way that apps like Clubhouse have begun to sprung up, and of course podcasts becoming much more popular amongst the 17 to 25-year-olds, I think a voice-based command interface will gain more and more popularity. But let's keep them out of the bedroom so that it doesn't impact our sleep. I am a big fan of the new devices that are increasingly being made available. And you've got the dedicated ones like the Aura Ring, of course, and then the other like the Apple Watch and other wearables which give you more insight in terms of your sleep information. I think it's an interesting dashboard for people who are very analytical driven, because I always believe that you can't create change unless you know what you're measuring. And so that data is very interesting for people to look at. Now, whether they become addicted to it, as I've seen, or people just go down the rabbit hole of paralysis by analysis, we have to ensure that the information is creating smart decisions. So it's got its pros and cons, which need to be weighed up against the other.
Also, are you hearing anything on Pokemon Sleep? They were to launch it in 2020, but that's a outlier in terms of an year. So, are you hearing anything about the launch?
No, I haven't heard anything further.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Marcus. Thank you, Dr. Ravi and Radhika ji. This has been a wonderful session. It became pretty interactive because of the kind of questions we got. The entire spectrum. Some foodies seem to be here, so he was curious to know about IKEA food because you are pampering Hyderabad in a big way, but others are, salivating already. Dr. Ravi, you answered the maximum number of questions because these were targeted at you. So wonderful session. Thank you very much. Now the next session is going to start at 4 o'clock. That's a fabulous session where we have the doyens of mattress industry joining us. CEOs and head of retail from Carlone and Sleepwell will be a part of the panel, and then we have a very special session on sleep hygiene by Dr. Deepak Srivastava. So look forward to you joining us back at 4 o'clock. Thank you very much for now. In the meantime, if some of you want to post some questions, this can be taken up again by Dr. Ravi at the next session because he seems to be a pretty popular doctor here. Thank you.
इसमें कैसे बनेगा?